Greetings, War Thunderers. This is Longshot with you again, and welcome to my guide to flying the Ki-44-I in arcade. This is a Tier 2 plane with an arcade battle rating of 2.3, introduced in patch 1.51 as the first of several Ki-44s we're going to see added to the game. The Tojos were interceptors, their role being to climb quickly and engage high-altitude bombers. That's why when you look at the plane, it has an oversized engine, small tail control surfaces and unusually small wings for a Japanese fighter. The plane is built for speed, not maneuverability. And that makes it an unusual plane in the Japanese lineup, as all the other fighters, Ki-43s, 61s and 0s, are excellent dogfighters, but that's not what the Ki-44 was designed to do. Anyway, let's take a look at the plane. It has no armour at all, so I'll skip to the X-ray view. Like most Japanese planes, you have to worry about being set alight, which means noting the location of the fuel tanks. On this plane, they're right at the roots of the wings, with another tank in front of the pilot. That's a reasonably small target, but be aware that any stray bullet can start a fire, and once alight, this plane burns up quickly. Let's move on to a test flight. To start with, I'm at 4,800 meters, and the plane's comfortably cruising at 470 kilometers an hour IAS, which, for this battle rating, is very fast. It takes a while to accelerate to that speed, but if you keep it fast, there aren't many planes capable of running you down. Its roll speed's pretty good, as you'd expect for a plane with small wings. Let's see how it performs in a horizontal turn using elevators. Its elevators are quite weak. It's not close to catching a smoke trail, and it's slowing down quite rapidly. I'd suggest being very gentle in your use of the elevator if you want to keep this plane at high speed. So straight away you can see that this is a very different plane to the Ki-43s and 0s, which have strong elevators, but that's only one of its tail controls. To check the rudder, I'll hold the up elevator and left rudder together. Straight away it wants to yaw sharply to the left, and I'm frequently tapping the right roll key to level the plane, which puts it into a climbing spiral maneuver. You see how it's crossing its smoke trail now. The rudder on the plane is quite powerful, so when you need to perform a hard turn in a Ki-44, you really want to use the rudder keys. Okay, high-speed handling is next, and for that I'll put it into a dive. I'll roll the plane to see when the ailerons begin to tighten up. Still pretty fast, until it hits the high 500s, and then its roll rate begins to slow down, but still rolls at a reasonable rate, even past 700 kilometers an hour. Its rudder is responsive even at these speeds, and the nose tracks the mouse cursor fairly well. All in all, its high-speed handling is very good, especially below 600 kilometers an hour. Next I'll see how much altitude it can recover in a steep zoom climb using WEP. This tests both the engine power and its ability to retain energy, and gives me an idea of how deeply I can dive in a boom and zoom attack. From a low altitude of 850 meters, it climbs past 3,200 meters before I'd need to level off, which is an excellent gain of 2.3 kilometers, but I'll take it right up to the point of stall and see how well it performs a hammerhead turn. And wow, did it flip over quickly. The plane seems to quite nose heavy, and it lined up with the mouse cursor quickly as well. So to me this looks like a good all-round energy fighter, with the ability to boom and zoom and execute stall trap tactics. It could probably outturn quite a few planes using that rudder as well, but for me, that'd be the last resort in this plane, not the first, as I prefer to make use of its capabilities at high speed. Right, let's look at a battle. I'm flying it in a 2.3 lineup, preferring not to average it down, as that would get you into ultra-short battles on the new Saipan and Kalkan Gold ground strike, which are best avoided in my opinion. I'm using stealth ammo for both types of machine gun. My convergence is set to 300 meters, and I'm carrying 30 minutes of fuel in case it turns into a longer battle. The plane's fully spaded in this game, and as a low-tier plane, it only took me 7 games to research its modifications, so stock plane syndrome really doesn't apply here. I'm climbing toward the enemy on a bit of an angle, which I'll straighten when I fail to see any climbing fighters. The ideal climb speed for this plane is between 260 and 280 km an hour IAS, erring toward 280 rather than 260. Its small wings need a high airflow to generate lift, hence it needs to be travelling fast to gain altitude. And from a 2,000 metre spawn, that'll get you to around 3,800 metres in 2 wet periods, which for a 2.3 plane is superb. However, I chose not to climb that far in this game, as I spotted a Henkel 112 on my left that I thought I might be able to engage. He's already occupied with a few other friendlies, so if he flies straight, I have a good chance of an intercept here. Unfortunately, he's following that biplane in a diving turn, and I haven't a hope of getting guns on him now. Nor do I want to get sucked down into a furball at this stage, so I'm aborting my attack and climbing again. And as I do so, I notice a high P-40 that obviously climbed away from the battle. He's still a long way off though. And there's also quite a few bombers up here, including 2 PBYs. I have shot down a few PBYs with this plane, but with the weapons on this Ki-44 it usually takes multiple passes, during which you're at constant risk from their gunners. I'll definitely look for easier targets where possible, such as this D3A1. Just drop into a shallow dive to increase my closing speed and hopefully get under the firing arc of his rear gunner. Then lift up and take a careful shot from convergence range. For a long time the Japanese 12.7mm were next to useless, but in this patch I find they've improved considerably. I'm ripping off wings with them far more often now than I ever did before. That P-40 is approaching now, but still some distance away, so I'll try for a shot at this Beaufort from underneath. No joy there, and I need to roll over and dive away before his dorsal gunner gets a shot at me. I'll let the Beaufort go for now. My main concern is the P-40, who definitely is looking to engage. Firstly, I need to climb a little. I won't have a chance to gain an energy advantage, but I'd rather take him on at a similar altitude, as that way he can't just boom and zoom me. At one time, P-40s in War Thunder were quite manoeuvrable and able to hold their own in a dogfight against many other enemy energy fighters, but certainly that's not the case now. My aim therefore is to avoid his head-on attack and then bait him into a turn fight if I can. Firstly, I'll roll over into a dive in his direction, which will increase our closing speed and make him lower his nose to get a shot at me. Then I'll use the rudder to turn sharply and lift it up to deny him a firing solution. Just a question now of whether he's going to try and turn fight. And he is, and that was not a wise decision on his part. You can see how effective a rudder turn is in this plane, especially when you use it vertically as I did there in a wing over or hammerhead. The P-40's only chance was to dive and run. He was doomed the moment he chose to fight. Anyway, that's left me in control of bomber altitude. The Beaufort's still up here, but I'll just take a few moments to check for climbing fighters. Okay, 21 spawned in. Looks like he wants to dive. None of those guys down there are climbing. I'm looking in particular to see if the guy I just shot down wants to climb up for revenge. I'm not seeing him yet though, and the Beaufort's climbing, which might give me a shot at the soft underbelly of his plane, so he's my new target. While he climbs, I'm into a shallow dive, same as I did against the D3A1 earlier. Okay, here we go. Getting in close before I open fire. Set him alight, and off goes the wing, immediately turning away to avoid taking damage from his gunner. There's nothing worse than being lit up by a dead bomber. And looking behind me, I glimpsed an F2A that looked like he might be climbing. After looping over, yes, there's not one but 2 climbing buffaloes, one of which is flown by the P-40 pilot from earlier. He has indeed come looking for revenge. I'm just going to cross above them, which will make them climb vertically and stall their planes if they try to follow me and get guns on me. And neither of them try a helicopter attack, so either they've run out of energy already or they're playing it safe. Just circle above them in a climbing spiral. Yep, they're nice and slow. Ripe for the picking. Let's see if I can pick them both up in a single boom and zoom. It's always nice when that works out. Targeting the plane at the back first. That's one down, but I don't have a shot at the second buffalo, so I'll have to extend away. He's still very low on energy. I don't want to give him too much breathing space, so I've just looped back toward him. Got to be very careful flying above and across a player's gun sight like this. Once I lost this plane to a Spitfire, spraying and praying from long range and setting me alight. No such problems this time. His effort to follow my climb has nearly stalled his plane, and now he's an easy target. Though for a minute here I was wondering if I'd actually get the kill. The light weaponry on this plane usually do need a fairly long burst to inflict serious damage, and that's why I look to stall fight in the Ki-44-I. Once an enemy fighter loses its speed, you can get guns on target for several seconds while they're hanging there, unable to maneuver and evade. Not only that, it's also a really enjoyable way to shoot planes down. Anyway, the first Buffalo pilot is back in a P-36G, and this time he's spraying and praying in a helicopter attack. All I need to do is wait until his bullet stream stops and then instantly swoop. Unfortunately, he's managed to pull a split S, so my firing angle's all wrong, and I should probably have rolled to improve my chances there. Back into a zoom climb while I watch what he's doing. If he's close to stalling, I'll attack immediately. Yep, he can barely turn his plane, so I'll rudder over and hit him with a deflection shot. Job done. So I guess the question now is whether the P-40 pilot's going to climb back up for another attempt at revenge. He's spawned in another Buffalo, but no, looks like he's diving away, and I can't see the other guy either. Looks like there's no longer any point to my hanging around up here. It's time I lost some altitude and look to engage the furball myself. Well, Timbu happens to be right there, on my right. Let's see if he's paying attention. He's seen me and pulled a hard turn, so I'll switch onto this Henkel 112 instead. I'm doing almost 800 kilometers an hour here. And this is the first time I've really tested the plane's high-speed handling. I can't quite follow the Henkel, and that was due to my weak elevators. Switching to the Kingfisher and a slight bobble is enough to throw off my aim. So now I'm extending away and climbing to about 1500 meters, and I'll look to engage with a little less speed. Okay, there's a bunch of enemies furballing away at ground level, and I'm going to start with a shallow dive, hoping to pick out a target as I approach. Strictly looking to boom and zoom here, nothing fancy. A bunch of them have flown under me. I'll drop into a steep dive and engage the rearmost plane, in this case another Kingfisher. Then I'm extending away, dodging a little in case someone tries to spray in my direction, and hitting WEP to maximise my speed. After which it's a simple case of repeating the same procedure. Only around 1200 metres this time, which is easily enough considering the enemy are all at ground level. Into my attack run, just checking for any incoming threats, waiting for a target to present itself. I'm thinking of either Timbu or Frigate here. Frigate it is. Can't land a hit. Then I'm out and running away. Let's see what's happening behind me. There's a wave of new fighters, still some distance off, and the nearby furball continues to rage. I'll look for another attacking run, out of which I'll extend back toward my own fighter spawn. Looks like Timbu's isolated himself, and probably has eyes only for the plane he's dogfighting with. I'll see if I can pick him off this time. Only hits once again. That's 4 boom and zoom runs I've made now for no result. The plane isn't the problem here, it's the weapons. Boom and zooming through a furball generally provides very short firing windows. I simply can't get these guns on target for long enough. I'm asking 4 machine guns, 2 of which are only 7.7mm, to do the kind of work normally reserved for 20mm cannon, or a large bank of 50 cals. While these guns are good enough to shoot a plane down in a long burst, they're just not powerful enough for high-speed snapshots. So when everyone's at ground level, your options are either to join them in a turn fight, maybe shoot a plane or two down if you're lucky before someone blindsides you, or choose weaker targets. Speaking of which, a BF-110s are nowhere near as strong as they used to be, and there's an isolated one down there on my right. Seems very preoccupied at the moment. If he doesn't see me, I might be able to hit him with a longer burst. No, he's dodging. Once again, I only scratch off some paint. And because I was diving toward the enemy spawn, I have to pull a fairly sharp Immelman to get away, which gave someone the idea of taking a shot at me, but still I have plenty of speed to escape. The hopeful sprayer hasn't given up yet though. He's trailing me in an I-15. I'll loop back above him and see if he'll try to prop hang in an effort to shoot me down. Let him get close enough to be interested, but not so close he'll actually get guns on me. Yes, he's taking the bait. Now into a climbing spiral. All I need to do is wait for the bullets to stop and then hammerhead over for an easy kill. He tried to hold the nose up for a head-on, but simply couldn't do it. too low on speed. So obviously these guns are effective against biplanes, so let's try a diving attack on another I-15. Just choose one of these two. And down he goes, no problem at all. Well, I'm sorry reserve planes, it seems I have no choice but to target you. Can't get that P-36 as I extend away, but I wasn't pulling quite enough lead there, so my bullets fell short. And who is on my tail? My friend Timbu. Fortunately, my Tojo is much faster than his P-36. He simply couldn't keep up and soon gives up the chase. I've looped over and I'm looking for another biplane. There's another I-15, down there all on his own, and that's an invitation I cannot pass up. Down he goes, and then I'm running for friendly territory. And this time I do have to dodge around as a few players take parting shots in my direction. But once again, they have no hope of keeping up. I'm just much too fast. The speed of the Ki-44 is a huge asset. As long as I'm careful in my attacks and don't pull hard maneuvers that slow me down, I'm pretty much untouchable. After climbing and turning, I noticed a high I-16 and decided to wait and watch to see what he does. Looks like he's diving to join the others, so I turn and begin my next pass. Something else is evident too. My team's running out of planes. All I'm seeing down here is a cluster of red and very little blue. Sorry Nimrod, down you go. As per my new policy, I've picked off another biplane and then I'm running away from the frenzied mob before they turn in my direction. Oh, and that's my double ace in the day. A Spitfire's giving chase, but I'm leaving him behind, and I can wait till he's turned away before I start to climb. And as I climb, I see a high Spitfire dancing with a lag, and I decide it's no longer safe to boom and zoom beneath 1500 meters. I need to gain some altitude here, else I'll end up with a Spitfire hovering above me, and no one wants that. There's a PBY up there as well, but he sees me coming and goes into a panic crash dive. That's fine, I'll let him go. The Spitfire's my primary target now. Looks like the lag's in trouble and has to dive away, and the Spit's following. I'm sorry about the lag, but from my point of view, this gives me control of altitude once more. And I'm going to need it. I'm the only plane left on my team. These assault maps must have pillboxes that planes at this battle rating struggle to destroy, as the ground target count hasn't moved for quite a while. Which means I can expect the whole enemy team to come looking for me, starting with that Spitfire. Looks like he's trying to climb straight up. I think this guy sees me as an easy last kill to win the game. Well, let's see about that, shall we? I'll get a good long burst in here, but unfortunately Spitfires are a bit tougher than biplanes. I expected him to turn immediately and try to follow me up, so I roll in the climb with a bit of rudder. That might seem like a bit of an overreaction on my part, but trust me, you don't want a Spitfire getting a shot at you with all those flamethrowers he's carrying. Away I've levelled off with Spit and now a P-36 underneath, and someone from my team is giving me the hurry up on the chat. What exactly does he expect me to do in this situation, I wonder? Perhaps it might have helped if he and his buddies hadn't burned through all their planes. Okay, both the Spit and the Hawk are climbing. I'll need to deal with them soon, else I'll be overrun with enemy climbers, so I'll go for the Spitfire first, as he's the most dangerous of the two. He was kind enough to give me a second long burst, and this time there was no escape. And I don't think he was very happy about it either. There goes his easy last kill, I guess. And it's around this point that I wished my plane had a central cannon and a strong enough damage model to withstand head-ons. I'd like nothing better than to turn and take on the remaining fighters in a more direct manner. A MiG-334 would be brilliant in this situation. Even a Lag 3 would be pretty good. But no, I have a Tojo, which means doing everything possible to avoid taking fire and getting enemies to stall their planes. Which is fun, of course, it just takes more time, and damn it, I was careless. I let that guy get guns on me, and that could have turned me into a fireball. Into the climbing spiral, he drops his nose, runs out of speed, I rudder turn into a dive, roll the plane, and, well, I guess I'll have to try again. Gentle climb, as I want my speed nice and high. Like the J2M2, it's very easy to point the nose up, just a little too sharply, bleed off all your speed and suddenly find yourself stalled out while someone hammers away at you from underneath. That should probably be far enough. I should be able to turn back toward him now without risk of another helicopter attack. He's certainly trying though. I'll just wait a little longer. Okay, let's go. Job done. Okay, I have a Fury and an I-16 there. Obviously the I-16 is the greater threat. I'm not sure what happened to the Hawk that was climbing at me earlier with a Spitfire. Perhaps he just gave up, I don't know. It's always interesting when you have two planes climbing at you from different angles like this. Sometimes you can attack them in isolation, but generally I find it preferable to try and herd them together if I can, as that way I know where they both are. But in this case I'll see if I can bait the Fury first before the I-16 reaches us. Is he going to bite with a helicopter attack? No. And a diving attack isn't lining up either as he turns underneath me, so I'll abort and reassess the situation. The I-16 is less than 4 kilometers away and closing in. I'll regain some altitude and go for my second strategy of herding them together. The Ki-44 obviously has no trouble out climbing either of these planes at any altitude, and up here its performance is far superior. The Fury's trying to follow me, just gradually turning toward the I-16 to drag the Fury in that direction. And the I-16's trying to helicopter now, but he simply lacks the horsepower to do so. I waited till he flew underneath and then dropped down to attack. Ishaks are tiny planes though, with all the vital components squeezed into the nose, which can make them hard to shoot down. And where did that Fury come from? I obviously have to pay closer attention. I thought he'd be lower, slower and further away. Let's see if I can get him to stall out with a simple loop attack. Over we go. There's vapor trails from his wings. His nose has dropped. And he's flopped over into a stall, and good night. What about the Ishak? Well, he's still trailing me, and I still have a huge energy advantage. And this impatient guy on my team is still watching. Obviously he doesn't know it's possible to return to the hangar before the battle ends. Far be it from me to tell him otherwise. It's nice flying with an audience for a change. Okay. Can keep this pretty simple as he's very low on energy. I can just dive in and attack here. And that's kill 14, and it was the last kill I managed to score in this battle. Obviously the enemy team wanted to shoot me down so they could call it a day and queue up for the next game, but just as obviously there's no way on earth I was going to let them. I can be stubborn like that. Eventually I had 2 or 3 planes climbing at different angles, but they'd become rather cautious and kept ducking away from my attacks and refused to be herded together very easily. Here the Fury dives when he sees me approach. I try and switch onto the Ki-27 and then notice the P-36 on my right coming in too close, so I face him and have to dodge head on with a snap roll. And this stalemate continued until I was almost out of fuel, and then the game ended through a timeout. So I guess I ought to summarise. The Ki-44 is a brilliant energy fighter. Keep it fast, don't turn fight, don't accept head-ons, in fact do everything you can to avoid being shot at, as it's made of gasoline-soaked rice paper stretched over matchsticks. When engaging bombers, do it from underneath, avoid their gunners. With fighters you want to master the fine art of stall tactics and the use of rudder to turn the plane. You can also boom and zoom in this plane, but the guns will likely limit your effectiveness in that role, and it'll be a test of your discipline and patience. Try to pick on softer targets that are easier to shoot down. If you're playing the Japanese line and want to learn energy fighting, this is a great plane to start with, as it will reward good habits and punish you when you get it wrong. But that's all I have for this video. I hope you found it helpful. Until my next vid, I'll see you in the skies.